and to get a chance for my group, me and my group, what we're doing in terms of nutrition trends. The outlines for my presentation, I will talking about market price and cost. For sure, I'm not a specialist in market, but I would get my thoughts about market today. Genetic improvement, what we are doing today in PIC, and what you guys, from nutrition standpoint, could be waiting for in terms of genetic improvement. Another point, I will talk about whole herd feed efficiency.
Could you please stand on the light?
Oh.
Film you.
Here or there? Oh no, don't. So, and I would talk about multiple approach for diet formulation. It's something really new, and I love this. If you guys have a chance to see our nutrition guideline, we just launched in 2 months ago, actually. We put the first chart to just using these approaches. And in here, we are really getting a chance for our customers to have another view about formulation, not the traditional one based only in the least cost, okay? So let's talk about the market. Two points in this slide, in this chart. Actually, the good news, pork remains the most meat consumption in the world. It's about 40% of the total meat consumption in the world. But in accordance with United Nations data, those guys here is growing fast. In 15 years, if you see the data from United Nations, you see that poultry will be grow around 20 to 30% in terms of consumption, and pork, zero, almost zero. And there's a reasonable answer for that, okay? So look at the production in the United States. If you see the production in terms of breeding herd, it's something that is reducing year by year. What happened here? PED break. If you are in the States, you know what it really means, this, I would say, green circle. Probably is that the worst times in the United States in terms of challenge to produce, but it's the best times in terms of profitability, in terms of price. What happens after PED break? The productivity is growing faster and really quick, and they produce much more pigs today than the past. Moving to stock. What happened in this slide? Pork, beef, and poultry stocks is really high today. If you consider it's higher than last year, it's higher than the average from the last 5 years. What happened when you have a high stock? The price goes down. And if you see this blue line here, it's 2004. And if you ask it for somebody that worked in the United States in 1998, I'm not there. I used to be my training in Brazil. And there's the worst times in the United States production. Why? Because they used to sell animals for $20 head. What the price today? I'm not saying, and I hope that is not repeated again, but this is the situation today. The price is going down. What is a good point? The cost today in the United States is very good, is going down. Why? Because the raw material is good price, corn, basically. If you see the forecast for the future, there is a little bit trended to increase a little bit. Why? Because the soybean, you have to consider the world production. Argentina and Brazil have a break in terms of soybean production. What happened? Probably the United States will export more, and they will be affected the price and the cost in the United States. Let me talk about genetic improvement. If you see this chart, it's a really nice one because until 2014, PIC worked at the traditional methodology to select based on parents' information. What happened from this point? PIC started to work with genomic, actually select using methodology that relationship-based genomics to get much more information, not only about the parents, and to improve and go and accelerate the progress. This is our index. What is index actually? Index is one value that combines different traits in terms of genetic improvement. I can talk here about feed conversion, mortality, and everything. But PIC today work with the index. And index is a combination with different traits that translate in terms of money. If you see the last 5 years improvement, you're talking that $2.63 per head is the value for the improvement. But if you see the last year, it's 3.89. Why? On average improvement. Because we are accelerating the progress. Oh, this is a really nice information. I would say, I don't believe this is only something that PIC, but PIC is doing a good job. Let me talk about one history about this. And I was in a BRF, my former company working. We are seeing this happening with different genetic lines, okay? But if you are in a pig production, you know what happened with total born increase a lot. What happened in terms of birth weight? Reduce in an inverse. We estimate 100 grams lower if I compare 2014 for 2006. The difference to PIC, at PIC say, is it something related to genetics? The other companies say, this is nutrition. And I have probably my worst times in BRF trying to fix that by nutrition. And what happened? You increase cost. You put money. You put a lot of investment and include your time that you can solve other problems to try to fix something that genetics promised to fix. Look at this, the same. When the PIC started the relationship-based genomics in a selection, what happens in terms of birth weight? Growing up again. This is the good news. The bad news, this animal is not in a field today. These animals is in nucleus farms and a multiplication system because we have like 3 years lag between the nucleus farms and a production system, okay? But this is something new. Is it about the future? If you see about, for example, the purple line here is our winning weight. It's something that is a component in our selection. You increase. What happens with the pre-winning mortality? Total born is just one component. You have to think about survivability. Piglets win it per sow per year, not only total born. Total born is an indication by genetic, okay? Let's move in for, I would say, growing finish. This is some data that is an average from the last 12 months in our nucleus farm in North America. And we got some numbers just to show you guys what happens today in our nucleus farms. This is our serial lines. I would say the most important one is 337. We have different ones. Each line here is one bore. One bore means one line, not one bore. If I consider the top 10% bores in the nucleus farms today, we have 1.55 in feed conversion. This is better than broiler. If you get a chance to work with chicken, you guys know what I'm saying. It's better than light birds, better than griller. And what happens in terms of air there again? Improve a lot. So what happens in terms of selection? PIC is working today to select have weight. I mean to say late selected it every year increase the weight of market. What do you suppose or what do you expect to see when you are selected for have animals? You expect that feed conversion should be worse. But what happens with feed conversion? It's going down. Going down. Why? Because actually we are using data from late or have animals. This is something good because if you see the market the last couple of years and analyze on average, every year you increase 1 kilogram in a market weight. This is a prediction if you see for the future, probably in 50 years, the average for market weight should be around 100 170 kilos. Today in the States is around 127, 128. What is the good point about that? You can dilute your total cost. Let's talk about whole herd feed efficiency. I'm coming from Brazil, you guys have heard. And so, as soon as I arrive here, I have a couple of questions from my colleagues in PIC, my colleagues and my American colleagues, and my colleagues in Brazil. They ask me all the time, hey, why you guys in Brazil have a passion for feed conversion, for performance? If you ask for an American about the feed conversion, they know, they want to improve, they know that they have to improve, but they are making more and more attention about the cost, because the cost should be more, I would say, suitable than feed conversion. If you are good in cost, you can improve or you can accept worse feed conversion. Yes, it's impartial, it's true. If you see this is a corn prices, okay? I'm not returning to talking about the market, but let's talk about corn. This is a corn prices in the United States in June. I just got this information in June. See here, the blue one, the red line is a current year price. You see that the price of corn in the United States is really, I would say, flat and really far than the average, 5 years average. What happened? What is important in feed conversion here? Is important? Yes. But look, let me put some data from Brazil here. I got this presentation in Brazil, and for you guys from Brazil, you know what I'm saying. This is south of Brazil. This is the cost of corn here in the Midwest in Brazil, is a Brazilian corn belt, is around 50% of the south. 2 years ago, the price in Brazil is pretty much the same or similar. What is the mindset in that time? What is the value for feed conversion? I can just formulate diets and think about cost. What happens this year in Brazil? For many reasons. The price in corn in Brazil, in the south of Brazil, you have around 50% of the Brazilian production, around 50%. And what happens? $8 per bushel is more than twice than the United States. This is one reason that they have to make an attention and pay attention all the time about feed conversion. It's not only about the cost. So I like this. If you imagine a feed efficiency as a tree, you can see that the branch is 3 points. Not more than 3 points can explain for you at least, I would say, 99 or 100% of your feed conversion. This is something that you can see. Feed intake, mortality, as my colleague presented very well here, health, and everything again. With those three, you combine 100%. But the part that you cannot see is the roots. And this is something very interesting because there is many other points that affected those points here. And see, what is this? I don't have an intention to explain you this mind, but I created this mind map just to orientation myself and my group to what is important in each point here that can affect those only 2 points. And you be predicted the feed conversion. Here you have like 2 or more than 2 hours to talk about that, okay? Let's move. But pay attention. There's many other points very important that could be affecting on this. So, another point about feed conversion in Brazil. Again, this data came from BRF, but it's allowed to use it since it's an information for 2009. I used this information in a conference in Brazil. Now it's public information. What happens? Every year since 2004, we start to record those data. They improve feed conversion. On average, I'm talking about 0.263. I mean 263 grams per kilograms in terms of feed conversion. This is the improvement that they have in those 5 years. The good point here. It's not about nutrition. I'm not talking just about nutrition. I'm talking about management, health, equipment. Everything included genetic. They projected the feed conversion for the next future, and they got, using projects, to achieve the feed conversion. the point here. Oh, there is change in nutrition? Yes, for sure. But it's not. If you consider a caloric feed conversion, the behavior is pretty the same. And one vision about Brazil that I learned is feed conversion is more than cost. It's sustainability. In this situation in Brazil, we reduce our manure production and could be more sustainable to grow our production in the same area. If you are in the south of Brazil, you know very well what I'm talking. Or thinking about the feed mill. If I have in the same period to keep this feed conversion here to sustain my production, I need to build in a new feed mill with 15,000 tons per month capacity. This is a part that I'm talking right now. I just talked. Nursery and growing finish. But there is something new in this arena. If I have a chance to ask you, how many in this room know about the whole herd feed efficient? How many of you guys are controlling this part, this 13 or 15%? I know some customers have a potential to reduce 1 or 2% just in 1 year because they are not really tracking this number. So this number is kilograms of feed per weaned pig in the United States. Those data comes from AgriStat. We have systems today producing consistently 35 kilograms per piglet weaning. But on average, if you see the last 2008 to 15, 8 years of recording, you see an improvement. This is a potential change for me. It's something that is in our hands today. What is the point? If you have a chance, please review our manual with our new recommendation in terms of feed management for sow. Why? I promise you guys, if you compare the older recommendation and the new recommendation, you have at least, depending on your cost, 40 cents of dollars in your hands just using our new recommendation in comparison for the other one. So let's move on about the multiple approaches for diet formulation. So I know that you're talking about feed costs as a variable cost, and I love it. I really appreciate when the people say, I control my costs, I formulate my diets in a least cost. I really appreciate that. But all the time I learn with my group in Brazil, I say, hey, have you guys thinking about if this least cost is the best cost? Because the cost, if you consider feed or piglets, together the numbers are around 70%, as you mentioned, 70, 80%. But actually, you cannot control this fixed cost, but you can dilute this cost. Why? Because the revenue component in your profitability, there is one point, there is quantity sold. If you have health problem, just use your information. Or if you have, I would say, less nutrient in a diet, you have a lower growth, what happens? You sell less. If you sell less, what happens with the profitability? It's lower. What I recommend here is try to think more about this. Don't use just the mind in your mindset. Formulate your diet just thinking in terms of best cost per pound or per kilogram produced. And of course, in the United States, you have to consider most of customers use fixed time. What means fixed time? They don't have space, and they have to, many days, they have to take out the animals, and they don't have space to grow, to stay the animals in a facility and produce more. Or if you are working with fixed weight, different systems have different goals. For example, during the winter, they used to work with a fixed weight. What they do, reduce the nutrients in the diet, go slower, but they make more money. In the end, the key point is here, profitability. Let's move here in talking about our recommendation. This is just an example that you guys can see in our nutrition guideline. I'm not talking about this is our requirement, it's just one example. Using animals 20 kilos to 25 kilos, I will show for you 3 different approaches. The first one, the traditional one. If you got our manual today, you see the information is on average here. Because you guys know, feed conversion, the response for lysine in feed conversion is higher than average daily gain. What happens here? If you are focusing in feed conversion, you can use 1.42. But if you decide, no, I would like to maximize my data gain. You just use it 1.28. Good. This is maximized performance. I have some customers that think like that. They don't care about other points, just maximize performance. There's another, I would say probably the most ones. They think, okay, for me the importance is the lowest feed cost per unit of gain. And makes sense sometimes. But this is, I call minimize the cost. If I see the same example, the number is 0.85. It's the same range. Means you change the recommendation from here to down, you drop. So let's move for the part that I love. This is what PIC are talking today. Maximize profit. What happens here? Using income over feed cost. What happens? Using revenue and cost. You make, or using income over feed costs and facilities. You can use a fixed cost by day in your facilities. Or using this part, income over total cost per pound or per kilogram produced. What is the difference here? If you have, as much as you have more information about your cost, you can get a better decision in using those data to formulate your diet. The good point, I don't expect that you guys, you see our chapter and see that equation and say, oh, let's calculate it and by hand all the time. We are working today, it's not ready, it's coming soon. You'll be launch this calculator. It's a calculator it's a decision-making tool. It'll be free, you'll be in our website, you can make it download. What is the trick here? We provide I would say a tool that you can just input your data. And this is not only regarding nutrition, it's regarding included for health or for products, feed additives. If you know the improvement, you just feed the calculator and then you model for you and show what is the best in terms of income over total cost. You can do to improvise, you can do for ractopamine, you can do for lysine, you can do for everything that you want. And the part that I like, and I'm working on this with Marcio, the guy from my group, is creating actually different scenarios, modeling different scenarios, you know, because it's difficult sometimes to show, okay, if I run the calculator today, we have an answer for today, but I don't know about tomorrow. And this is the good point. They create for you different scenarios in terms of feed cost, in terms of raw carcass price, or you can make your decision in terms of live weight if you prefer. And then you create for you breaking even in each point. And you can make a decision, okay, this is the scenario, I can see the future, and I can make another decision for today and look at it for the future to understand what is the point to stop or not. Moving for the last part for my presentation, I would like to talk about lysine. We have our updating lysine here. It's based in 27 commercial experiment trials. If you compare our older recommendation and our new recommendation, we have at least 12 to 13% higher today, the red line, in comparison to the blue line. This is a strong database. It's around 45,000 pigs in 27 trials, all in a commercial facilities. What means commercial facilities? Commercial research facilities. We work as close as possible to the real world. It's not a trials done with one animal in a pen. Let's move back here. One thing, I told that there is money in terms of feed management for sow, but here I'm talking that the requirements is around 12 or at least 12 or 13% higher. What is the trick? People say, hey, you're telling that you make an improvement in your animal and now they need to formulate that with more lysine? Yes, that's true for one simple reason. They improve the growth rate and they improve the feed efficiency. But actually, they are eating less. If you consider pound per pound or kilograms per kilograms, virtually it's the same. To produce 1 kilogram of meat, you need the same amount. And the number for you guys, around 19 grams, sorry. 19 grams. If you consider, and we're running back our nucleus arms and see this number is pretty consistent, okay? Good point, and as of course, as a genetic company, people say, hey, you guys are pushing to biological response. Sure, it's true. But we are providing the calculator. You'll be released probably tomorrow morning. You can get our website and make it download. And you can make it download to understand what we're talking about, the biological requirement. But even tomorrow will be released our economical calculator. And you guys can make it download and say, okay, this is the biological. But let's put my numbers, because the numbers came from different areas. I suppose some guys from Vietnam or some guys from Brazil, they have different numbers. Finishing my presentation, I would like to say we have a tremendous opportunity in terms of feed efficiency. I really have a deal. If I can combine the experience that we have in places like Brazil today, in terms of feed efficiency, with the knowledge that the Americans have in terms of controlling KPIs and cost, you have probably the really, really good deal. Second, making your decision by maximize economic return instead cost. Cost is important, but sometimes, like those days, as I mentioned, the dark days coming, you can make a worse decision. And one philosophy for my companies, never stop improving. Just one slide, probably you guys haven't seen this press release. PIC, in a cooperation with the University of Missouri, Kansas State University, they actually, I would say proud to say, that produced the first pig PRS resistant. It's something that's not allowed to use today. It's something that is in a process to be approved. But one thing here, everything that we know today about PRS could be not true in the next future. And of course, they are using gene editing here, okay? Thank you. If you have questions, thank you.